Right, what's up, guys? This is Kevin with Tactical Gimmicks here, and we are looking at the trade and finance screen of my Seleucid playthrough in Rome 2 Total War, which has recently been updated. As you might notice, our income next turn is 20,000 gold or ducats or florins or something like that. 25,000 shiny pieces, and that's after expenditures. That's good solid profits. And yeah, if you follow these few tips, you will learn how to also make 25,000 gold surplus per turn to spend on your drugs and your hookers that you need to supply the armies as they move forth and conquer the earth. I've seen a lot of posts on like Facebook and some other forums that um, say that people have trouble with making money in various Total War titles. Pick and choose your Total War title, and probably the biggest way you can influence your immediate gold income is through trades. So you'll see on this screen we have our taxes. Rome 2 has slave population. We have trade, other, and our total income. So other is ignorable, negligible. Slave population, after you win battles in Rome 2, you can either release, execute, or enslave people. You should always enslave. If you're playing a Total War game and you can enslave people from it, you should always do that because it'll pay off more than releasing them in the long run, and that's just period. So the tax income in my game is super, super, super high right now because as the Seleucids, I rushed Alexandria. In a typical game, you're probably not going to see this unless you're like maybe Rome and you rush Carthage and then you make a bunch of money from Carthage, or if you're Rome and you rush like Athens, then you might see that. So the tax income there, that's a reflect of your populace as a whole. But the important thing here, the thing that you have the most control over, is your trade income. And you might notice off to the right here that I'm trading with everyone on the map. I have lines of visibility and I'm trading with everyone on the map. And that's creating 16,000 gold, I think it said. Yeah, 16,456 gold in trade income per turn. So even if I didn't have Alexandria, which is worth 4,200 gold, so even if we subtracted Alexandria, which doesn't have any trade resources, it has some iron, which is nice, and let's say we subtracted Ethiopia, which has no trade resources and is worth another 2,600 ducats per turn, gold per turn, plus 4,200 from Egypt, which has no trade resources, per turn. You're looking at 6,900 roughly income, and that's going to come out of your taxes. So without the trade income of 16,000, you take that and that, you subtract them from your 25 per turn, 25,000 income coming in next turn, and all of a sudden you're only making 2 or 3,000 gold per turn, which isn't very good. So trade is super important, and there's a very easy way to get your trade up quickly. So if I load, there's a lot of saves here. I don't get through new baby. I don't get through a lot of turns per night, but we're only on turn 51. I want to say somewhere around turn 43, 45, 47. I was probably maintaining. Let's boot up a turn 230. So we're gonna jump back 10 turns roughly. Just loading into this, I'm gonna say that my income per turn from trading is probably roughly similar. Pardon the load time. My computer hasn't been upgraded in a few years, but it does its best. And jumping into our trade summary, we're making 13,000 per turn, so not bad. Still trading with most of the rest of the world at this point in the game. Oh, there's a couple factions left. And I'll get into a couple factions left that aren't trading with me. Mainly Rome and the Arverni. And I'll get into how you can get them to trade with you in just a second. So the most important thing that you can do in a Total War game is meet every faction on the map. So let's take the Seleucids, whose campaign I was just playing. They're a very fun faction. If you've never played the Seleucids in Rome 2 or Rome 1, they're probably the most fun faction. They have the most diverse unit build, but it's not just like a light unit. Like they have heavy, they have pikemen, hoplites, swordsmen a la Rome. They have like Silver Shield Legionnaires that you can get, I think, in Rome 1, maybe even Rome 2. They've got Skirmisher Cav, they've got Heavy Cav, they've got Shock Cav, they've got Light Cav, they've got Elephants, they've got Siege Equipment, they've got everything up in the Seleucids. And there's other factions like Parthia or Bactria or Sparta or Rome that can field better units in kind of whatever specialty you're looking at, but they have everything, and they not only just have like the average, but they have a step above the average. It makes for an incredibly interesting playthrough. So at the beginning of a Seleucid campaign, you have all these satrapies over here, and they're basically fucking garbage, and they're going to rebel against you because they're pieces of shit. But you start with a navy, you start with some nice provinces, you start with a good province break. So the first thing you should do is take your navy, get rid of these extra units, because they're going to cost you, they're going to set you back 240 gold per turn. And you're going to get rid of them, and you're going to put on a forced march, or in whatever iteration of a Total War game you're playing, you're going to put on the speedy moves, and you are going to send your navy out to meet the rest of the world and broker trade agreements, because as you can see from the mini-map, large swath of the world is unexplored. This works with Rome, this works with any faction that has access to water. If I'm playing a faction that does not have access to water, doesn't have a port, one of my first priorities in every single Rome 2 campaign is to secure a port, and then recruit an admiral and take that admiral and march him around the world, broker trade agreements with people. Now, you will find that there are people maybe not so willing to open up a trade agreement with you. So we'll use Cappadocia as an example of this in the beginning of the Seleucid campaign. Trade with them is worth 252 gold per turn. That's not bad. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money over the course of the game. So their likelihood of success in accepting a trade agreement with us, it's pretty low. So maybe we should offer them some money. 1,200 gold, they're on board. 800 gold, they're on board. 400 gold, they're even on board. They might not accept 400 gold. No, they didn't. So we'll offer them again. We'll offer them 800 gold this time. Something I have noticed with just about every Total War game is if you offer somebody something and they reject it, and then you counteroffer with just a little bit more, they're more likely to reject it again, even if they would have accepted it in the first place. This is where, like in my save screen before, you see all of the different save screens. I think this is absolutely ridiculous. There are options. There are options. I'm waving my hands around like crazy. My wife walks in. She's like, they can't see you, right? Well, I shot a video in the driveway a minute ago where they can't see me. So, In a game like Civilization, for instance, you can say, "Hey, motherfucker, what will it take to make this deal work?" I think some of the Total War games are kind of have an option like that, but I'm not entirely sure. Let's see really quick. So they did take 800 gold this time, but in a lot of cases, if you went into this deal, you asked Cappadocia, "Hey, trade agreement, 400 gold," and they said, "No, fuck off." And then you came back and you said, "Hey, what about 800 gold for a trade agreement?" And they still said, "No, fuck off." If you had offered them 800 from the get-go, they would have accepted that deal. It's almost like Creative Assembly wants to say, "Hey, if you offered us a shit deal the first time around, the deal that we would have accepted, we're not going to accept it in the second round because we dislike you more now for offering us a shit deal the first time around." Now, it's important to note here that we just paid them 800 gold for a trade agreement. That could be make or break early on in a campaign, and you might say, "Well, shit, I could have used that money to recruit more troops and go and conquer more land," and that might be true. But 800 gold in any unit composition, you are looking at, now my dog's growling at me. You're looking at no, not raise army, select the army. You're looking at 8 more units of pikemen. That's not going to make or break the difference on whether you can go and conquer something. It's not. Now, with the Seleucids, a little bit different. If you're going to roll a Seleucid campaign from the start, you should build military units, fuck trade agreements from the get-go, just explore the map, and you should rush Egypt, because Egypt, like I was just showing, Alexandria is worth a lot of money. If you're playing a faction that isn't in such close proximity to such a valuable province like Egypt or Rome or Carthage, I can't think of other, or Greece. If you're not that close, then rushing to conquer another province for tax income may not be the best choice. It just might not. So that's when you go for the ports. That's when you explore the land, and then don't feel bad if you have to pay 800 gold for a 252 gold per turn trade agreement. Because if we were to then take that money and say build just about anything, so Capital Province has things that you can make the most money on, even from an outskirts. That's 800 gold right there. It's 784 gold to build an outskirts. You only get 100 gold per turn. We just spent 800 gold with Cappadocia, and we're going to get 252 gold per turn. And that does it. That wraps it up right there. Maybe you upgrade to a harbor, you're going to get 180 gold per turn for an 1,800 gold investment. So 1,800 gold gets you 180 gold. That's a 10% return. 252 gold, 800 gold for 252 gold. That's like a 34% investment. I don't even have a calculator in front of you. That's in front of me. I don't. That's a better investment. So take your starting trade boat, sail it around the fucking map, meet every other faction, and broker trade agreements. And if you have to pay them off to make that happen, then pay them off. It will pay off for you in the long run. A la my other campaign. Turn 50, every single faction that has a port has been met, has been discovered, all from sailing one ship around up into the Black Sea and back down, up into the Adriatic Sea, back down to Cyrenaica, across the Horn of Africa, up the coast of Italy, through France, up past Spain, up to England, and then over to Scandinavia. And every faction has been met. All of this money is coming in. The boat to get you there is going to set you back 300 gold per turn. It'll pay for itself within 1 or 2 trade treaties. It's going to pay for itself. And you send that motherfucker right away. And you do that because he's probably young. Your general is probably a young dude. You don't want him to die halfway there. He's 36 years old. You don't want to send him to go and fight some wars for you and have him die halfway to London and not and then you have to recruit another admiral and do it all over again. You don't want to do that. You want to meet everybody from the get-go, and then that line of sight will remain. It'll remain if another faction comes in and invades the port city. You might not have a trade treaty with them, but you still have line of sight on the port. You still have line of sight on who the new faction is, and more often than not, snippety snappity, they're gonna broker a trade agreement with you, and you're going to be making even more money, especially if they took a port from a faction, and taking that port did not eliminate your trade agreement with the pre-existing faction. Now you have two trade agreements with two different factions that are each bringing in more money than before. It's fantastic. This is trade agreements 101. Always be willing to explore the map and buy trade agreements. For instance, on that Seleucid campaign that I just loaded out of with Rome, Rome was a steadfast holdout. Steadfast holdout. They did not want a trade agreement with me. The reason for that, I brokered a trade agreement with Carthage before Rome. So the Romans didn't like me. They held out for many, many, many turns. Trade agreement with them was going to be worth 600 or 700 gold per turn. 600 or 700 gold per turn, and I would offer them 3,000 gold. They wouldn't take it. 4,000 gold. They wouldn't take it. 6,000 gold. They wouldn't take it. 6,000 gold is a 10% return on your trade agreement, and Rome is only going to grow in this game. Same with the Arverni. That was valued at just under 400 gold. They wouldn't take it. I would offer them 2,000, 3,000 gold. They wouldn't take a trade agreement. Finally, I had to bite the bullet and just say, hey, Rome, here's 8,000 gold for a trade agreement. And they took it. Arverni, hey, here's 6,000 gold for a trade agreement. They took it. Both of those trade agreements, 8% returns. The Arverni, 6,000 gold for a 400 gold trade agreement takes about 14 turns, and then you make your money back. Rome, 8,000 gold for a 600 gold per turn trade agreement takes about 13 turns. You make your money back, but then you're even stronger. You broker those deals early. You save that money up and broker those deals early, and then come turn 50, and you are making drugs and bitches money. You can spend it on whatever you want. Booting back into that game. It's turn 50. I don't even have that many provinces. I have Cyprus and Syria and Nabatea and Egypt and Ethiopia and Asia, and like that's it. So like we're talking 5 provinces, and I'm clearing 26,000 gold per turn on top of fielding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 armies. We've got 8 armies on the field, and these aren't like Eastern Spearmen armies. These are pikemen, hoplites, median cavalry, ballista, skirmishers. None of these armies are BS armies, and 1 naval force to make sure people don't mess with it. The naval force is a little weak right now. But it was a lot of artillery, a lot of peltasts, and these navies are expensive to upkeep. So travel the map, broker trade agreements. Do not be afraid to bribe your way into a trade agreement. That's one of the biggest things that I see. One of the biggest mistakes that I see people making is they don't want to shell out money to make something happen. And you can be in a situation where everybody on the map is trading with you. Everyone that you want to. There's some people that aren't trading with me right now that, I don't want to trade with them. Like Colchis, I don't want to trade with them because I want Armenia to like me. I don't want to mess with Armenia yet. Pontus, I don't want to trade with. I'm getting ready to go to war with them. I have no treaties with Pontus, so that it doesn't affect your reliability for breaking a treaty. So, just a quick tip there. Big mistake that I see a lot of Total War players making. Go out, seek out, and pay money to get those trade agreements, and you will be a lot happier. Please like and subscribe, and we'll be back with some more Total War tips.